Hey, I'm Trish.
And I'm Brandy.
And you're listening to episode 27 of
Connected Conversations. This is your go-to space where international teachers, leaders, and parents like us come together for real conversations about what it actually takes to thrive in international schools.
Between us, Brandy and I have been doing this international teaching gig for nearly 40 years across 4 continents in more than a dozen countries, working in multilingual, EAL-rich international school environments.
And today we're closing out our English language learning mini-series with the episode we knew had to come at the end, because once you understand the complexity of language access, identity, behavior, and belonging, the next question is obvious.
What do I actually do with all this new knowledge tomorrow morning in my classroom?
Exactly, because in episodes 24, 25, and 26, we named a lot of very real tensions. Students can sound fluent but still struggle academically. Silence can be misread, limited language can manifest as behavior stress, and teachers can be expected to scaffold constantly without a shared system.
Yeah, so today we are moving away from the theory and straight into the practice.
This episode is part of our Teacher Toolbox series.
Favorite.
It's my favorite, where we share practical strategies and tools to strengthen your international teaching practices.
We're going to walk you through practical, high-impact strategies that support the multilingual learners, without asking you to reinvent every one of your lessons from scratch.
That's right. We'll look at what to do when planning, what to do while teaching, how to check understanding without over-measuring English, how to support new arrivals, and how to build belonging while you do it all.
Yeah. The goal today is clearer access, calmer classrooms, and more confidence in the decisions you are already out there making. So, are you ready? It's time to
get connected. Let's start with the planning mistake that catches so many teachers off guard. And I say that with love, I promise, because I have absolutely done it too.
Yeah, we plan the content objective really clearly. We do not always plan for the language demand of the task with the same level of detail, though.
So here is your first key reminder. Before any lesson, ask yourself 3 quick questions. First, what do students need to learn? Second, what language do they need in order to show that learning? And third, how will I have them prove their learning?
Yeah, it seems simple enough. 3 questions: content, language, output.
Let's make that concrete. Imagine you're teaching a science lesson on habitats. The content objective might be students can identify how animals are suited to their habitat.
Yeah, but the language demand is actually a little something different than that, Brandy. You know, students might need the vocabulary habitat, adaptation, because, survive, environment. They may also need a sentence structure, though. Something like, the camel is suited to the desert because.
Right. And then the output question is crucial. Are they expected to write a paragraph, label a diagram, explain to a partner, sort picture cards, or record a short oral response?
So once you know the objective and the form of assessment or proof you need for the comprehension, you don't just move on.
No.
You make 3. Yeah. All right. She said so. You make 3 support decisions. Which words need to be taught or displayed around the classroom before the task begins? What sentence structure will help the students explain their thinking? And what response format will let them show their understanding most successfully?
So in the habitats lesson, you might put the 5 key words on the board with visuals. Model 1 sentence out loud using because. And let students first explain their thinking to a partner before asking them to write independently.
Yeah. Or if writing a full paragraph would create too much language overload, you might start with a labeled diagram or a matching task first. Just check whether the science understanding is there. That's the foundation. You're not just identifying the language demand for interest's sake. You're using it to decide what to pre-teach, what to model, and how students will respond.
So this quick scan becomes a planning routine. Find the language hurdle, choose the scaffold, and then choose the response mode.
Yep. When you do that before the lesson, you start to see potential language barriers before they pop up. as a surprise challenge halfway through the lesson.
Another practical move here is to choose one language focus for the lesson, not 10.
Yep.
One.
Sure, they may have 10, but they only get one today.
Exactly. Maybe today you focus on just the key vocabulary, or maybe they need that sentence frame, or maybe they need the foundational comparative language such as more than, less than, or similar to.
Yep. So choosing just one language focus really keeps the support realistic for you and achievable for students.
I also really like a simple planning note that says, where might language trip students up here?
Yep.
Consider where the wording of the task might block the access to it.
For example, if the history task says, explain why this event was significant, the word significant might actually be the barrier before the history content can even begin.
Yeah, so you might quickly rephrase that aloud with, tell me why this event mattered. And suddenly, poof, the door opens. And then you can continue by introducing the new word. Another word for important or when something matters is significant. Let's practice that together. Significant.
Significant.
There we go.
Yep. The intended outcome in these strategies, they're really clear. You know, you're trying to make the language demand visible before it becomes frustration or problems during the lesson.
So here's a reflection prompt for you. In the lessons you taught this week, were there any real barriers for your multilingual learners? The concept itself, maybe the language needed to change to be accessed?
Yeah, that's a great reflection question. Just always keep in mind in our world out here, you know, that means you're always going to be planning for content, language, and output. You're going to be a better teacher using this strategy. So remember, identify one language focus, focus on pre-teaching the words or the sentence structures that could block the access for students before the lesson begins. All right. Before we move on, let's take a moment to mention that not every school supports their multilingual learners in the same way.
Exactly. Some schools use push-in student support. Some use pull out, some use a mixture of both. And some schools say that they have support, but in reality, the classroom teacher is still carrying most of that differentiation support and addressing the student needs by themselves.
So, like we talked about this a lot in the last episode, instead of debating which model is best in theory, let's talk about what to do inside the model that your school has.
Let's start with the push-in language support. If an ELL or EAL specialist is coming into your classroom, and maybe sitting in the back of the classroom or working closely next to the weaker language students in class, then the most helpful thing you can do as the main teacher is not just hope that they'll figure it out in the moment.
Right. Please give them visibility before the lesson, okay? Share the objective, the task, the key vocabulary, and the part of the lesson where you estimate that the language demand is likely going to rise for them. So pre-plan with this teacher so that they have the heads up and they can best support.
Even a 30-second update helps. Today, students need to compare habitats using because and so, or maybe something like, this is the point where they have to explain their reasoning and writing.
This allows that ELL teacher to support with purpose instead of just reacting on the spot.
And if you are the language support teacher pushing in, try not to become a permanent whisper helper glued to one child all lesson. No, instead, float around. Give that child a little space and chance to negotiate a bit on his or her own before or, after you get them started.
Like this supports access and also builds confidence, okay? You might pre-highlight the language task or rehearse one response with the student, while you're still sitting there, model a clear sentence starter, or quietly check the understanding before the class discussion begins.
Definitely. Another useful push-in strategy is deciding roles in advance. Who is leading instruction? Who is listening for language barriers? Who is circulating? Who is supporting participation? Because if both adults are improvising on the spot, students feel that confusion too. The best push-in models work when there is a shared trust between the two teachers and a sort of shared classroom model during that time. After all, two experts is always better than one.
That's right. That's why we teamed up.
That's right.
Now, let's talk about the pull-out student support model. Many times this happens in schools where like a rapid catch-up of missed concepts is needed, such as a student with zero English entering into a bilingual grade 2 or 3 classroom. It is challenging. It happens every year and it can be done. So if students need to leave the room for this EAL or ELL support, the biggest mistake is treating that time like a completely separate world. Right. Pull out works best when it connects back to the classroom and what students are learning in it. If not, the student really runs the risk of being even further behind in content, despite catching up in the language building side.
Exactly. So if you are the classroom teacher, ask yourself, what language from my next few lessons would help this student most?
Yep.
That might be key vocabulary, sentence structures, discussion stems, or the wording of a task type that they will see repeatedly.
Yep. Instead of just saying they're doing fractions this week, you might say they need to explain how they know two fractions are equivalent. Now you got fractions, equivalent, explain. Those are 3 key words, or they'll need to words like numerator, denominator, greater than, equal to.
And if you are the pull-out support teacher, one of the most powerful things you can do is front load or reinforce the language that the students will need back in their class. This gives students a stronger entry point back into their classroom.
Yeah. There's also an important mindset piece here. Pull out should not become the place where all language responsibility lives. And push-in should not become the place where the classroom teacher stops thinking about the language because another adult is doing the work for them.
Oh, I've seen that before. In both models, the real goal is shared clarity, right? The practical question then becomes, what does each adult need to know before the lesson, during the lesson, and also after the lesson?
Yeah, before the lesson. Align on your objectives, language demands, and the likely barriers. During the lesson, decide who is supporting that. And after the lesson, quickly note what helped and what still blocked the access.
Oh man, that debrief, that's so important. And it can be as short as a minute. Hey, this visual helped today. Or, the writing, it was a little too heavy still. They could explain it orally, but not independently yet. That 1 minute reflection matters because it turns support from random help into a consistent system.
And just to clarify, we're meaning discussion between the two teachers at the end. Okay, so
not between the students.
Yeah, just to confirm
maybe they could say that too.
You could, but if they don't have the language to do it, it might be a challenge.
Touche.
And once that support model is clear, the next question becomes what students are actually being asked to produce in class and how we make that output accessible.
Okay, now let's move into the actual teaching part because sometimes the lesson plan is fine, but the live delivery still overloads students linguistically.
Yeah, this is really true and where so many multilingual learners start to fall behind. Not because the content is too hard, but because the input is coming too quickly, too densely, or in too many different forms all at once.
So true. So here are 5 classroom shifts that will make big differences for your language learners right away.
Just a little shift, okay? All right, shift 1.
Big shifts.
Big shift in the end, but little shifts in the beginning, okay? Chunk your instructions. Shift number 1. Okay, do not give 6 steps in a paragraph orally and then wonder why the students are frozen. Even your non-multilingual will struggle with that. Okay. Give a direction, pause, check. Give the next direction, pause, check.
Oh, I love that. Instead of saying, take out your book, turn to page 13, read the passage, underline 3 examples, and then answer the question below, and then compare it with your partner.
You have 5 minutes. Go.
What do I do first?
What could you say instead, Brandy?
Instead, you need to split it up. You could say, first, take out your book and open to page 13. And then wait for them to do that visibly. Continue by holding up that book and pointing. There's your visual cue. Next, read this paragraph only and underline 3 examples. Stop.
Yeah, you don't need to tell them the last step of your instructions, the compare with your partner part. That's called direction stacking, and it's tough to cognitively process orally. Maybe you can even visually write that last step on the board while students are reading and doing that underlining part in the last step. These visual prompts also help a lot.
And continuing on that, shift number 2 is model the task visually. I would say this is the most often skipped part and also one of the most important. Show them what the finished product looks like before asking them to produce it or do it with the class. Models and examples are key, especially in the start of language learning.
Yeah, I am such a visual learner myself, and so show me a poster, show me a guide, show me a symbol.
Totally.
So, and those visual models can take so many forms. They might be a completed sentence frame on the board, an example paragraph, a labeled diagram, or even you thinking out loud through the first question.
Yes. Shift 3, keep keywords visible.
Yep.
If the lesson depends on 5 important words, those words should be somewhere that the students can see them.
Yep. I have a trick that has always worked for me in my international classrooms because my multilingual students are always at different points in their learning journeys. And I'm typically a high school teacher, right? So some of my students are native speakers, but many are still at their vocabulary building phase of their journeys, even in 11th and 12th grade. What I always do is on my whiteboard, I have a box, like I cordon off a black box in the upper right-hand corner of my whiteboard. These are my new keywords or focus of the day, like words. And I might just have 2 up there that I plan to have at the start. Amalgamation. Okay? Amalgamation.
What does that mean?
Right? Oh, I love that word. Plethora. Love these keywords, right?
One.
Yeah. Because she knows it's like my favorite word. So these words, they start at the lesson and then I make it a task, a challenge. These are the words to use. But other great words are going to come up during the lesson. And sometimes it's just that all of the kids in the class need to learn how to spell it. So I put it up on the board for a spelling. It's not always a new word to everyone, but the spelling might be. So I challenge them to use it during the lesson.
That is a really brilliant idea.
Always.
You could also do that in primary as well, like just with words that come up naturally or organically.
Yeah.
Love that. Some other simple things that you can do is keep the words visible, like Trish said, somewhere on the board, on a word wall, on a slide, vocabulary card, an anchor chart, or maybe even a handout. It doesn't have to be fancy. New vocabulary just needs to stay visible.
Yep. So shift 4, build in thinking time before expecting spoken English output.
Ask the question, then pause. Or let students to rehearse with a partner first.
Yep. Don't re-hurt each other. Okay.
Don't re-hurt each other.
So that can sound like, don't answer yet, put your finger on your nose when you have it. Or think for 5 seconds. Or tell your partner your answer first, and then we'll share in the group. Increasing that wait time will really push the students into the work of learning rather than waiting for you as a teacher expert.
Yep. And shift 5, reduce teacher talk when possible. Oh, it's so hard. Don't reduce the warmth or the connection, just unnecessary language load. Man, this is the hardest for me.
You'll get there one day. You'll get there. Okay. Teachers sometimes repeat themselves in 3 different ways, thinking it helps or reframing what they just said. But for some multilingual learners, it actually adds to the processing burden because they're thinking it's a new sentence, right? It is more supportive to say less, more clearly, with a visual nearby.
Like I said, this is so hard for me. And I've really worked hard on this. And I used to be this teacher that used to layer on questions, echoing my students' responses as well. They would say something and then I would just say what they had said. And I felt that it was my way of showing the students that I had heard them. And I also see a lot of teachers doing this today without even realizing it. But to be honest,
you went potty? You went to this on the weekend? You're just repeating it, but it's not helping.
Exactly. You're just an echo, literally. But it's so unnecessary, right? Also, it's secretly teaching the other students in the class that they never have to listen to each other.
Yes.
They only have to listen to you because you're echoing whatever someone is saying. I mean, even if the student's response is too quiet, why not just ask the student to repeat their great answer just louder? Then they get to do more work and get more practice.
I always ask my teachers when I'm watching their classes, why were you working harder than the students? And that's what we do when we fill the air with our language practice rather than theirs, right? So this echoing idea isn't to be confused with a valuable way to fix student errors in language learning called echo correcting. I don't know if you've ever done any reading or research on this, but I love echo corrections in my language learning class. This means the teachers only repeat something that a student says when it's a mistake. Okay. The teacher echoes either the error with a who farted face, like you went dog, you went to the, so you and then the student's like, oh, I made a mistake. And they try to figure it out. Right. Okay. For example, the cat's is meowing. And you're like, is meowing? or you repeat. The other way you can echo correct is actually to fix the mistake. Okay. So the cats is meowing, a child says, and you go, the cats are meowing. But again, you've taken the opportunity in that one away from them to find the error.
That's true.
But both are a form of echo correcting. So keep that in mind. Echoing is so important with language learning.
Wow, your TEFL training.
TEFL Worldwide
great
Prague.
work.
Yeah.
Okay, one of my favorite practical habits to reducing my teacher talk is to pair verbal instructions with a gesture or a visual icon. Read, circle, write, talk, match. Students start recognizing the task types way faster over time. Trisha actually gave me my first ever set of visual instructions when I first became an international educator.
I don't remember that.
I know. I remember it.
I'm glad you remember it. Good. Okay. Yay. Okay, my job here is done.
Exactly.
Exit stage left. The intended outcome here is smoother access in real time, right? You are reducing the chance that students miss the task before they even get to know and show what they know.
So here's your reflection time. Which of these 5 shifts could you use tomorrow in your classroom to help differentiate for your multilingual learners without changing your whole lesson?
Yep. Will it be chunking your instructions? No planning needed. Visually modeling the task? No planning needed. Making your key vocabulary words more visible? Or building in student thinking time before they answer? Or decreasing teacher talking time?
Even if you adopt even one of these strategies and practice it in your classroom over the next few weeks, you'll be right on track to really meeting the language development needs of your ELL students.
Agreed.
Once your ELL students have accessed the lesson, the next challenge is helping them express their thinking without that moment becoming high risk.
Yeah, this matters because we talked in the last episode about how students may understand far more than they can comfortably produce in English in front of others.
So your job is not to remove challenges, but instead to build a bridge between understanding and expression.
Right. One very practical tool here is to create sentence frames. We've mentioned them before, but some educators may be wary of this as it's considered spoon feeding or doing the thinking for the students, but it's not. Sentence frames or sentence stems are simply giving the structure the students need to get them started.
Yes. So in science, that could be something like, I observed, so I think,
In literature, the character changed when
In maths, I know the answer is correct because It's a lot of ums.
Yeah, I never know when the math answer is right. Need more sentence starts. Another strong move is offering low risk participation sequences. Think first, talk with your partner next, and then share whole class after. This is the classic think, pair, share model.
My favorite. That sequence protects students from being asked to perform immediately in the large group setting. Scary.
Yeah, it is. It is. You can also offer more than one way to respond. Write it, say it, sketch it, point to it, build it, sequence it, match it.
This option is hugely beneficial because when the only accepted output is a polished English paragraph, you are often measuring English production more than actual understanding.
Yeah. One strategy I really love is partner discussions before independent work. Okay. You're going to have them write for the next 10 minutes, but give them 1 minute. 1 minute to share their thoughts and talk it through first.
And that can sound something like, tell your partner your sentence before using the frame on the board. And then now go write that same idea at your desk.
And then the flow should just come from there. So another helpful move is to pre-select participation. Instead of cold calling the student, least ready, or starting on this side of the circle and working your way to this one. Oh my God, the kid over here hates that. If you don't recognize that, please recognize. Okay. So you quietly tell a student in advance, Brandy, I'm going to come back to you in 1 minute. So be ready to share an idea.
Okay. That kind of preparation can completely change whether participation feels scary or manageable. It eliminates the idea of a child's name first and then asking the question, which can really put students still building the confidence in the language totally on the spot.
Yeah. And for students in a quieter or in that silent period of language development, like we've talked about many times, participation does not always need to mean whole class verbal output.
Ooh, good point.
It can mean pointing, showing, sorting, circling, ranking, or adding to a shared visual.
This is where we protect dignity and build identity for all, I would say, but especially those ELL learners. Yeah. And we don't confuse being publicly verbal with being fully engaged either. Students can show more of what they actually know instead of getting stuck at the doorway of language production.
So we want to know, in your classroom, what currently counts as participation and who might be left out by your current definition.
Yeah, so let's recap our tips here. Use sentence frames, let students rehearse before they perform, offer multiple response modes, and widen your definition of what good participation looks like.
Now let's talk about assessment, or more specifically, the everyday checks for understanding that happen inside the lesson, those formative assessment for learning moments.
Yes, because if every check for understanding relies on polished English, you're not checking learning. Yep. You're actually checking language production speed, vocabulary recall, grammar control, confidence, and sometimes courage all at once.
Wow. That last mention of courage and confidence is so true. Really it is. So here's a practical tool that you can use across all subjects. We call it the 4-way check. Show me, tell me, draw it, sort it.
I like that.
Show me, tell me, draw it, sort it.
I love that. So, okay, let's say you're teaching the water cycle. Show me might mean pointing to the correct diagram. Tell me might be a quick partner explanation. Draw it could, of course, be sketching the process with arrows. And sort it could be arranging the stages in order. Same concept, multiple access points. You might have the steps written on different cards and they're putting them sequentially in order. So that way reading comprehension could still be involved too.
Another strategy is to separate the content success criteria from the language support. For example, your success criteria might say, I can explain why solids, liquids, and gases behave differently. And then underneath that, your support might include a word bank like molecules, states of matter, condensed, and fast moving, plus a sentence frame like a solid keeps its shape because.
And that tells the students exactly why they are learning, what they are learning, while also giving them the language bridge into completing the larger assessment task. It also helps you assess the student more fairly too, right? Because you are clearer yourself about what's non-negotiable content and what is supportive language scaffolding.
Yeah, so let's also focus on the importance of listening for understanding before a writing task. A quick conference, a partner explanation, a mini whiteboard sketch, or a gesture check can help a student prepare for a task instead of leaving them lost later.
I also think teachers benefit from asking, what is the lightest language demand version of this check? Not the easiest, the one that asks for the lightest new language requirement.
Yeah, that's such an important distinction.
So, for example, if I wanted to know whether a student understands a sequence of events, for example, I don't need to start with an extended written explanation. I can start with a picture or picture sequencing, maybe oral retell or a timeline sort, and then I can build up from there.
Yeah, you're trying to figure out whether the student does or does not understand the learning, or whether they understand it but can't yet fully express it in English.
So let's have a moment of self-reflection here. Lots of reflection.
That's okay. That's what teachers need to do to improve.
We love it. Think about this past week, okay? And think about some of the activities you did where your weaker English speakers needed to prove their learning.
Which of those tasks truly checked just the student's understanding, and which ones of them required both understanding and clear English language production?
Which part did that ELL student really struggle with? Maybe it's time to adjust how you're asking to help them better succeed.
Now, in this next section, we want to shift a bit to bring in the behavior piece, because if we ignore that, we miss a huge part of what teachers are actually managing out there.
Yes.
In the previous episode, we talked about how language stress can really show up in silence, avoidance, frustration, humor, disruption, and overcompliance.
Okay, but so what do you do in the moment? Practically, when you suspect behavior might be carrying language overload? Okay, first tip here. Reduce the public risk. If a student is shutting down, don't automatically escalate by insisting on immediate public explanation. Instead, try a quieter entry point. Show me which part is confusing for you. Point to where you got stuck. Tell me in a whisper, or circle the word you know.
Hint, that doesn't happen with 22 other eyes watching.
Exactly.
Okay, please.
Exactly.
Okay? Second tip. Check the task language before addressing the behavior as defiance. That can sound like, tell me what you think this question is asking, or let's read the directions together and find the action word.
Yeah, I like that. Third tip, use structured partnered talk and defined group roles, because group work without language support can become a belonging problem really fast.
So if one student is always the writer, one is always the speaker, and your multilingual student is always the quiet helper, that's not inclusion, friends, okay? That's patterned invisibility. Yep. So rotate those roles and make those roles language aware. One student reads the question, one summarizes, one checks the vocabulary, one records the final idea. Maybe on the next question, you can actually have them switch the roles. So just tell them it's like a little clock, and every question they can be switching roles so they all get the opportunity to be all parts.
Yeah, and then pre-teach the language of collaboration too. Things like, yeah, I agree because, or can you explain that again? Or let's hear your idea.
What?
Or which answer do you think fits best? I used to write these on the board every time we had group work. Doing this means you're training the language of collaboration and teamwork.
And we in the high school, thank you for your service.
You're welcome.
No, it's me to you. Another helpful move is the private check-ins that protect identity, student identity, instead of, why aren't you doing your work? Shouting over the class and asking them. You might say, is the task tricky? The English, is it tricky, or is it both?
I love that, because it gives students a way to name the problem without the shame that can be attached to it. And it isn't a yes, no answer question like, do you understand? Which they will quickly nod and say yes to, even if they don't, just to save face. They want you to go away.
Go away is so true. Yes means go away. You can also normalize language struggle out loud in the room. Sometimes the learning is clear, but the English is the hard part. That happens. So everyone, let's break that down.
Yes, this kind of language protects student belonging because it reminds everyone that the problem is accessible and solvable, not personal.
Yeah. All right. Our final segment is going to focus on the new ELL arrivals in your classroom, because we all know rolling admissions are such a real part of international school life. It's March. You have a new kid. What?
That literally 7 just months happened.
No, really. It is. It is March right here. Okay. So this is one of those moments where teachers can really feel completely overwhelmed if there's no simple starting system.
Okay, so let's keep this practical. For a new student arrival, especially if they're struggling with their English to meet if they're struggling with their English to meet the level of the rest of the students in class, start by focusing on routines, relationships, access, of course, and confidence first. It's crazy to expect full academic independence by Friday.
For sure. In week 1, prioritize the survival language of the classroom. Bathroom, lunch, line up, pack up, open your book, work with a partner, finished, not finished, help, short and direct imperative instructions. Put those in a visual form if you can. Even simple icons will help.
Definitely. Next, create a buddy system that actually has a job, not just, yes, you're the buddy, you need to be nice to the new kid. Give the buddy specific responsibilities. Show them where things are. Repeat the task direction quietly. Help them find the right page. Walk with them at transition times for the next few days. And rotate that role if needed so it stays supportive and doesn't become a social pressure.
Another strong move is to create one consistent landing routine for all students. A visual starter, a predictable warm-up, something students can enter independently even if their English is still developing. That predictability really lowers the emotional load they have straight away.
Yeah, they know exactly what to do when they come in. For classroom tasks, give new arrivals a smaller first win, not a watered down curriculum forever. Just an achievable entry point that says, you can do this here. That might mean matching before writing, labeling before explaining, rehearsing orally before producing full written output.
Yeah, it also is really helpful to communicate early with families using clear, reassuring language. You can say, we're looking these days at classroom adjustment. confidence, understanding of routines, and gradual language growth. Like, we are not expecting full academic English immediately. Don't worry.
I love that. That one sentence alone can calm a lot of unrealistic panic. You get parents on side faster if they feel that their child's well-being will be taken into consideration.
We all want our kiddos happy at school, right? And sometimes that's why they're joining you mid-year too.
That's right.
You know?
Yep.
Because it
wasn't not happy at the other place. Yeah.
So, and for leaders listening out there, here are 3 things worth standardizing school-wide. Okay? A shared arrival checklist. A few agreed classroom language supports, and a clear explanation for families about language acquisition timelines.
Because teachers should not have to invent the first 6 weeks from scratch every single time. It's a routine pattern and should be supported by a routine system you develop.
Yeah, the intended outcome here is smoother entry with less stress and earlier belonging for the student, the teacher, and the family.
So take a moment here to, you guessed it, reflect.
Reflect, our favorite part.
If a new multilingual learner joins your room tomorrow, and they might, what would already be ready for them? And what would still depend entirely on you improvising?
Yep. Focusing on teaching survival language first, giving buddies a real role, using consistent routines, and starting with an achievable first win, and communicating those realistic language expectations early with families will really build a strong foundation for your multilingual learners to feel safe and supported in your class.
Okay, so let's pull this whole ELL Teacher Toolbox episode together in a way that is actually useful after this podcast ends. Today was all about practical action, not just awareness. We started with planning and then the reminder to scan for content, language, and assessment tasks before your teaching even begins.
Yep. And then we looked at classroom delivery and how chunking, modeling, visible vocabulary, think time, wait time, clearer teacher talk can really immediately improve language learners' access to the content.
We moved into output and participation and talked about sentence frames, partner rehearsal, multiple response modes, and widening that what participation can look like.
And then we looked at assessment and how to check for understanding without turning every task into a written or spoken English production test.
Then we tackled behavior and belonging because when language overload is misread, students can be misunderstood and classrooms can become less safe than they need to be.
Yep. And finally, we talked about supporting new arrivals with routines, survival language, and better buddy systems, and realistic expectations for those first few crucial weeks. We hope you have seen at least a few of the great tips and you want to take them on board because we have both seen with our own eyes just how fast these can really accelerate language learning in your classroom.
Absolutely. So if we had to leave you with one final takeaway from this whole series, it would be this. Strong ELL practice does not begin with having a perfect program.
Yeah. It begins when teachers stop assuming that access will happen automatically and start making language intentionally visible and on purpose.
And the good news is so many of the best strategies are not that big. They're not huge, dramatic changes.
They're not lesson planning time, you know?
Exactly. They're just these small, constant design choices that help more students access more of the lesson.
We really want to thank you for spending time with us throughout this ELL series. It's like as our own sons are in the ELL world, we just are really passionate about this, right? So we know they're not small topics, and we really hope this final episode has left you with some tools that feel really useful, realistic, and achievable in your classrooms. Ideally, from as soon as tomorrow.
We hope so. If you want to keep building on these helpful ideas, head over to connectedglobal.org. Where you'll find downloads, guides, checklists, and lots of extra tools and templates connected to international teaching, multilingual learners, and school systems.
And if you want to talk through what this looks like in your own classroom setting, your school, your team, you can also book a consultation with us. We'd be happy to chat with you about anything we've covered in this episode or along with any questions, concerns, or topics you might be considering.
You can also join our newsletter for quarterly insights into international education, along with new resources, fresh episodes, and ideas we're learning through our own work in schools and with educators around the world.
So please leave us a comment down with topics, stories, or struggles you want us to unpack down below in the show notes, right? Because Those comments really do shape what we create, and we read every single one.
We sure do. So if this episode helped you, please like it and share it with a colleague. Subscribe and leave a review. It helps more international educators and families find our show, and it helps this community keep growing.
So until next time,
may your scaffolds be clear,
your students feel seen,
and your teaching be practical and international.
Okay, so we're going to stop there.
There's not a space. We don't know when it stops. So I'm like, is that what I'm going to say?
More spaces. Brandy's cold.
I am. My poor little hand. Wake up. Okay.
When we get rich, we're going to buy her a new circulatory system.
Of a bionic hand, maybe.
Bionic. Magnetic, like your kids.
Yeah, it's like real. Pretty sure I've just shed all over your...
I just vacuumed this morning in preparation for your visit.